Welcome to Tabletop Gaming with Juice. Today, and for the next couple weeks, we're going to be doing RPGaDay 2018. Make sure you head on over to RPGjuice.com, where you can get caught up on the latest videos, the latest news, and blog posts from Juice himself. Now, I've printed out the list of questions, and I am going to be playing catch up because I'm about 5 days behind as of today, and this will probably be up on day 6. So the very first video, this one right here, is probably going to be the first 6. After that, I'm going to be releasing them hopefully one by one. I'm not sure yet. We'll see how that goes. But I've done this in the past. I believe I've done it 2 or 3 times, and I don't think I've completed it except for once. Question number 1. What do you love about RPGs? Oh, there's so many things. I feel like I've answered this before. I love the collaborative storytelling. I love the creative side of it all, whether it's creating terrain, creating, different worlds, the characters. It's really just the creativity of it all. That's my favorite part about the whole thing. I like spending time with friends and making new friends. I like doing these videos. But ultimately, it's just the whole creative side of the whole thing. If I had to pinpoint and say what is my favorite part of the creative process, I think, one, I'm very moody. One day I might want to do world building. Another day I might feel like painting miniatures. And some days I might want to do all of that. Other days I might not really want to do any of it. It just kind of comes down to the mood I'm in. For example, last night I really wanted to paint some miniatures, but I didn't because I didn't have time to do so. I love writing. Love doing my world building and writing that stuff out. So again, when people ask me what my favorite part about the whole hobby is, it's just the whole creative process. It unleashes something inside of me that no other hobby does for me. I enjoy watching sports for many reasons, and it's a completely different thing. So again, it's the one thing that I really think pulls the creativity out of me. Question number 2. What do you look for in an RPG? Oh, wow. When I started getting into tabletop RPGs, Palladium Books was what got me into it. It was a guy I knew, brought me in through Heroes Unlimited and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And so for me, it was, at the time, the idea of playing kind of like what I did when I was little, like playing with action figures, except not. Now it's all in my head, and my imagination is the limiting factor. So I kind of, did it for those reasons. What I look for in an RPG now, though, is different than then. Now, an RPG has to inspire me. Games like Numenera, which I do not have yet, that inspires me. It inspires a different type of story that, for example, Dungeons and Dragons doesn't for me. I still really get excited about Heroes Unlimited. It's just harder to find people to play that. I think it just comes down to it has to motivate me to want to play the game, whichever game it is. And it has to, again, inspire the creativity that I so love about this hobby. Number 3, what gives a game staying power? That's a tough one for me. Staying power. So fantasy, for example, always is something I can come up with new ideas for. And while a lot of it is stuff that's been done before and I've seen it in movies and stuff like that, individual character stories can be completely different than anything I've seen in something like Lord of the Rings or King Arthur or any of that, Conan. And so it's still always it's always a little different. Each game, each adventuring party, the inner party banter or bonds, all of that's different from campaign to campaign. And so staying power, as long as it's fun and easy. If I've been playing a game for a few months and I've read the books and I still have to go to the rules, it's not going to have staying power for me. Pathfinder, I bought a lot of the books. I've sold some. I liked the mechanics of it. I liked how in-depth character creation could be. I liked the options. But there were so many rules to it that I always felt like I needed to look certain things up. And so for me, Pathfinder did not have the staying power. Now I'm excited about Pathfinder 2.0. I'm going to dive into that book probably this week, the playtest. But, the jury's still out if that might have staying power for me. I don't think it will, to be honest, because I think I like simpler systems. But I'm going to give it a shot. And I don't plan on turning away from D&D 5th edition. In fact, I love 5th edition. But I do think Pathfinder 2.0 might have some things that I will like. And, until I try it, I can't say if it's better or worse than my favorite game, 5th edition. So I'm going to give that a shot. And we'll see how that goes. Maybe that'll have staying power. What is your most memorable NPC? Well, I have a lot of NPCs. I have an NPC group that comes up in a lot of my games. I call them the Fellowship of Rock. It's a dwarven bardic troupe that if you saw them on the road, you wouldn't even know they're bards. They wear armor, they have hammers, axes, shields. But think of like Stomp. I don't know if you guys have heard of Stomp. It's a musical that is done using different household items like trash cans and mops and brushes and brooms and things like that. And it's really good. And that's the inspiration for my group, the Fellowship of Rock. Now, they're called the Fellowship of Rock because they're dwarves. So, rock kind of comes from the fact that they're from underground. It's also a play a little bit on the Fellowship of the Ring, from Lord of the Rings. And yeah, anyways, they've come up in one-shots in my campaigns. They are a staple. And so for me, one of the big things was we had a group. I didn't record this session. It was a home group, and at least I don't think I recorded it. We had a rogue who had expertise in stealth and sleight of hand or whatever. Anyways, he had like really high stats. Like I want to say he was a +8 or something for his actually +8, +7. I think it was +7. No, it was +9. I'm sorry, +9 for his sleight of hand. Now, he went up while the Fellowship of Rock was performing and tried to steal, sleight of hand, gold out of a helmet, pretending to put gold in it. Well, he rolled extremely poorly and knocked the helmet over and had a hand full of gold. I think we tried to let him bluff his way out of it, but he failed that. I think he critically failed that. And it led to a big bar fight. He got thrown in jail. Yeah. Anyways, so that was my most memorable moment with my most memorable NPCs, the Fellowship of Rock. Favorite reoccurring NPC. So this is kind of the same thing, but I'm going to go with a different answer on this one. I have a goblin merchant who travels. He sells magical items. He sells cursed magical items. And what I do is I actually roll for, I make a different chart. If I know he's going to come up in a game, I'll make a chart for that day, like how many of his items are cursed, and I'll, boom. And then when a player buys something, I'll roll to see if it's cursed or not. This applies to anything. Healing potions. Maybe the healing potion is not a potion of healing. Maybe it's a potion of wounds. or whatever. Maybe it just doesn't work. So I do that, and the premise is that the guy doesn't really know. He's just a merchant who buys things off of people, believes, takes people at face value and sells it. He's not trying to swindle anybody. It's just how it is. Now, there's a chance he might know that some of the stuff is not good. All right, number 6. How can players make a world seem real? This is a great question. So I feel like there are a lot of games where the players and the GM get a little bit too goofy. Now, there's nothing wrong with playing a goofy style of game. Nothing at all. But it's never going to seem real if your group is full of people who don't take it seriously. So the very first thing I would say is, as a player, if you want the world to seem real, take it seriously, and play more serious. That doesn't mean be uptight, but don't make everything into a big joke. If you make everything into a big joke, your character is going to seem like a joke character, and the world is going to seem like a joke. It's just not going to stick. So that's the very first thing I would say. Another thing is your players can try to engage in the lore a bit more. Ask your GM about some of the things, maybe outside a game. Try to understand more about the world. And once you do, maybe even see if your GM will let you add some stuff to it and, expand upon the lore. If they do, then you now are taking ownership of it, and I think it'll resonate a little better. For the sake of this, let's just do 7 questions today, and then I will do videos after that for each individual question. Number 7, how can a GM make the stakes important? Just so you know, I haven't read these questions before now, so I think I've read the first couple, but and I haven't watched any of the other videos yet. But how can a GM make the stakes important? Oh, okay. Well, there's a lot of ways. Have real consequences. If the players really have strong connections to NPCs, don't pull punches. Make things time sensitive. Force choice. Maybe they only have enough time to save one person or the other, or to get one item or the other one because the bad guys are going to get the other one. And again, choice should matter. If there's multiple magic items in the world that are going to be helpful in stopping somebody per se, maybe the group is going for one and the villains are splitting. They're going for that and another one. Well, the players will get to the one, they'll wipe him out. They obviously can't get to the other one. And so the villain gets this magical shield that will completely nullify your spellcaster's magic missile or something. That's a pretty big deal, especially if your spellcaster really likes casting that. There's a lot of ways you can do that. But again, it all comes down to playing on the player's emotions. If you know that if your players are torn on something, one wants to go one way, another wants to go the other, again, make consequences to all decisions. Simple cause and effect. You got to have the world evolving in the background. If you're not, then it's just going to feel like, okay, we go point A to B to C to D. And that's one of the things with video games that's kind of annoying. For example, you can play Skyrim and there's no real sense of urgency. You can join the Brotherhood, and you can join these other factions, and joining one faction doesn't mean you can't join another faction. You can do quests in almost whatever order you want with no consequence. So it doesn't ever feel like you're missing out on something. Whereas other games might force you to choose. And the choice is what makes the stakes, in some instances, feel important. You choose one thing, maybe this character becomes bad. You choose the other thing, maybe that character is good. if you fail to save the farmer's daughter, maybe the farmer now goes and learns magic, and in 10 levels he's all of a sudden evil and serving as a spy for the villains or something, you know. So again, that's a consequence to your action. Maybe your players are really all about magic items, right? So they can either go get this item of wondrous power, or they can save the farmer's daughter. Well, if they don't save the farmer's daughter, maybe that whole village succumbs to this evil and wants to take out the heroes because they aren't actually heroic. Especially once they find out what they really did in that time. A lot of ways you can do it. I know this is a simple explanation of a way. Play on some of your players' emotions in real life. Do they have kids? And some things might be off limits, so don't push the boundaries too much. But if somebody's got kids and so they're sensitive to children NPCs, maybe that's what's at stake. Saving an orphanage. That could be a big thing for a parent. It's like, nope, we got to save these kids at all costs, no matter what. Maybe you have a split group that wants to spare the goblin captives, but you have one player in there's like, no, if we spare it, they're just going to come back and get us. You spare it, make it come back and get them, maybe. Or you spare it and it becomes an ally. That could be huge. Now you get a little goblin tribe as allies that maybe later on you can use it to fight on your side. Yeah, a lot of things you can do in RPGs. Again, it's limited by your imagination, and so I think there's a lot of ways that a GM can make it an important decision, whatever you decide. But it's always going to come down to your group and how your DM reacts, or your GM, and how the players in the group react, and the type of game you're playing. So, yeah. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up there. Future video. The 8th question is, how can we get more people playing? The 9th question is, how has a game surprised you? And the 10th question is, how has gaming changed you? So I'm looking forward to do those. You will see those up in the next few days. I'm going to try and do them one by one to make them each their own video, but there is a chance that these could be in chunks as well. It just kind of depends on what's going on. So that's it. This was Tabletop Gaming with Juce. I will see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.